and from someone who's lived for nearly 10 years in probably the most likely place that you would find a great white shark. But today you're going to get the opinion of a shark scientist and a marine biologist on this topic.
One moment, the 9-foot great white was swimming calmly near the surface. Next, she was being dragged nearly 2,000 feet down into the dark, crushing depths of the Southern Ocean. Scientists spent years trying to figure out what had killed her. What they discovered was more terrifying than anyone expected. Today, we are reminded of the great dangers that lurk at sea, about all the undiscovered threats that we might just be living with. Join us in this video as we unearth the scary truth about the vanishing of the great white. The vanishing. She measured 9 feet from nose to tail. In shark terms, she wasn't a baby. She was a strong, healthy teenager just entering her prime.
Movement patterns of great white sharks. We tagged 4 or 5 great white sharks, and one of them in particular, Shark Alpha, was around 9–10 feet in length.
The researchers named her Shark Alpha. She was flawless, no scars, no injuries, a perfect example of an apex predator. The team carefully attached a highly advanced satellite tag to her fin. This wasn't a simple tracking device. It was essentially a black box for sharks, designed to record depth, light levels, and most importantly, water temperature every single minute of every day. The technology inside these tags is remarkable. They're built to survive the crushing pressure of the deep ocean and the corrosive effects of salt water. After a set period, the tag is programmed to detach, float back to the surface, and transmit all its stored data to satellites. This technology allows scientists to recreate a 3-dimensional replay of a shark's life. For 4 months, everything went exactly as planned. The tag sent regular signals to the satellite. Shark Alpha cruised along the coast, diving for fish, hunting seals, and behaving exactly as a great white should. The scientists were collecting textbook-perfect data. It was boring, and in science, boring is usually a good thing. It means everything is working. Then, without warning, the pattern broke. The signal disappeared from open water. Weeks later, the tag turned up, but not where anyone expected. It hadn't drifted far with ocean currents. Instead, it washed up on a beach just 2.5 miles from the exact spot where Shark Alpha had first been tagged. That was unsettling. Normally, when a tag detaches, it can drift for miles, sometimes even into entirely different oceans. For this one to return so close to where it started felt ominous. When the researcher walked along that beach and picked up the small plastic device, he had no idea he was holding evidence of a massacre. The condition of the tag was the first clue. It looked worn, battered, and bleached, as if it had been soaked in chemicals. But the real horror was hidden in its digital memory. The team connected the tag to their computer and downloaded the data. As the graph appeared on the screen, the room fell silent. The timeline showed Shark Alpha swimming at a normal depth in water measuring 46 degrees Fahrenheit. Cold, deep ocean conditions. The depth remained steady. Light levels matched daylight. Then, in an instant, everything changed. The line on the graph shot straight up. The temperature didn't rise gradually. It spiked. Within seconds, the sensor jumped from 46 degrees Fahrenheit to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. A sudden increase of 32 degrees. There are almost no places in the open ocean where the water temperature can rise that much, that fast. To create heat like that, you'd expect an underwater volcano, and there were none anywhere nearby. But the temperature spike was only half the story. What was so scary about this data? What happened to Shark Alpha? Keep watching to find out. What happened to Shark Alpha? At the same moment, the heat surged. The depth sensor went wild. The shark, or rather the tag, was dragged downward. It didn't sink. It was pulled. The data showed a violent plunge, nearly 1,900 feet straight into the abyss. This wasn't a normal dive. It was a power descent, steep, fast, and brutal. Then came the most disturbing part. For 8 full days, the tag remained in complete darkness. It continued to move, while the temperature stayed locked at a steady 78 degrees Fahrenheit. This was no malfunction. The tag was inside something. A 9-foot great white had been ambushed, overpowered, and swallowed. The digestive process had chemically bleached the plastic casing of the tag. The evidence was undeniable. Shark Alpha was gone. What haunted the scientists was a single question. What kind of monster is big enough to swallow a shark the size of a car? To do this, the predator would have to be colossal, large enough to engulf the shark, or at least the part containing the tag, in one swift motion. And here's the chilling detail. The attack happened near Bremer Canyon. This region is a known biodiversity hotspot, where the continental shelf drops sharply into the deep ocean. It's a hunting ground for the largest animals on Earth. The scientists knew immediately this wasn't a normal event. This was a predation event that shattered everything they understood about the marine food chain. A top-tier predator had been treated like a sardine, and the search for the killer led to a terrifying realization. The problem lay with the 78-degree clue. When news of a possible super predator broke, the public became obsessed. Everyone wanted to know what could have killed the shark. The first and most popular suspect was the orca, also known as the killer whale. At first glance, it made perfect sense. Orcas are the only animals in the ocean widely known to hunt and kill great white sharks. They are highly intelligent, they hunt in coordinated groups, and they can be ruthless. In recent years, there's been undeniable evidence of this ongoing conflict. In South Africa,
when the orca started to kill the great white sharks in South Africa, the rest of the sharks actually disappeared and haven't come back for years. Disastrous for this ecosystem to lose an apex predator like that.
2 well-known male orcas, port and starboard, have been terrorizing shark populations for years.
Allow me to introduce you to the 2 orcas who have been terrorizing sharks along the African coast for about 20 years now. These guys are both me a port and starboard, named for their oppositely flopped fins. The bullies of the sea is the fact when you look them up on Google Images, these 3 photos are the ones that come up.
They've become infamous in the marine biology world, but for all the wrong reasons. They operate like a specialized hit squad. Their method is chillingly precise. Working together, they corner a shark, then use powerful tail movements or direct ramming to flip it upside down. Most people don't realize that when a shark is inverted, it enters a state called tonic immobility. It's a trance-like paralysis. The shark becomes completely helpless. The orcas know this, and they exploit it. Once the shark is incapacitated, the orcas perform what can only be described as surgical precision. They bite near the pectoral fins and squeeze out the liver. That's all they want. The liver is packed with fat and energy, essentially high-calorie shark fuel. The rest of the body is left behind. This behavior creates what scientists call a landscape of fear. When orcas arrive, great white sharks panic. They detect the chemical signals of a killed shark and immediately abandon the area. In some cases, they don't return for months. Were the orcas responsible for what happened to Shark Alpha? How did they do it? Let's see. Finding the culprits. At first, it seems plausible. Orcas are certainly large enough. A fully grown male can weigh up to 10 tons, and swallowing a small shark tag would be effortless. But there's a catch. When scientists compared the orca theory to the actual data from Shark Alpha, it simply didn't add up. In fact, the evidence from 2003 directly contradicted everything we know about how orcas hunt. The first and most important issue was temperature. The tag recorded a sudden spike to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. As discussed earlier, this temperature closely matches the internal stomach temperature of a great white shark. It does not match an orca. Orcas are mammals. They're warm-blooded, just like humans. Their internal body temperature typically ranges between 96 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If an orca had swallowed that tag, the recorded temperature would have been at least 20 degrees higher. 78 degrees is simply too cold for a mammal's core temperature. That single data point effectively clears the killer whale. The second issue was the method of attack. The data showed that the tag was swallowed whole and remained inside the digestive tract for 8 days. That's not how orcas feed. As seen in the South African cases, orcas are highly selective. They target the liver and sometimes the heart, then abandon the rest of the carcass. They don't swallow an entire 9-foot shark, tag and all. It's just not their behavior. What happened to shark alpha wasn't a surgical extraction. It was a clean, efficient, straight-down-the-hatch event. The third inconsistency was the dive, and this one is critical. After the attack, the tag was dragged down nearly 1,900 feet. While orcas can dive deep, they are still air-breathing mammals. They have lungs, not gills, which means they must regularly return to the surface to breathe. A rapid, sustained plunge to extreme depths, especially after an intense hunt, doesn't fit their physiology. They would need to surface to recover oxygen. Remaining deep for days simply isn't possible for them. Then there was the aftermath. When port and starboard appeared in South Africa, the sharks didn't just disappear, they created a ghost town. Great whites fled the area almost immediately. Researchers in Australia expected to see the same pattern after shark alpha vanished, but that's not what happened. They monitored the behavior of other sharks in the region, and nothing changed. The sharks kept patrolling. They kept hunting. They behaved as if nothing unusual had occurred. That detail mattered. It suggested the event was localized and isolated, not a shift in dominance caused by a new apex predator moving in. This wasn't a changing of the guard. It felt more like an internal dispute. The killer wasn't an outsider. It was hiding in plain sight, blending in with the locals. That realization forced the team to look deeper, into darker waters, into older shadows, hunting for something far more ancient. With orcas ruled out, the investigation turned to the location itself. Shark alpha disappeared near Bremer Canyon, a massive underwater gorge at the edge of the continental shelf. Think of the Grand Canyon, but submerged, lightless, and unforgiving. Canyons like this are deep-water hunting grounds, known for harboring some of the ocean's most elusive creatures, including giant squid and the even larger colossal squid. The idea is terrifying and thrilling. Imagine a colossal squid nearly 40 feet long, rising from the blackness. Its eyes the size of basketballs. Its razor-sharp beak capable of slicing through steel cables. In this scenario, the squid wraps its massive tentacles around the shark. The suckers, lined with rotating razor-sharp hooks, bite into the shark's tough skin. The shark thrashes, but it's useless. The squid drags it down into the crushing pressure of the abyss, where it can be eaten at leisure. This theory neatly explains the violent plunge to 1,900 feet. That depth is the squid's natural domain. It also explains the shark's sudden disappearance. And squid are far from passive. They've been known to battle sperm whales. A shark wouldn't be off the menu, but once again, there's a problem. What is the problem? What does this problem open the investigation up to? Keep watching to find out. Something bigger and dangerous. Just like with the orca, the temperature data destroys this theory instantly. Squid are invertebrates. They're cold-blooded. Their internal body temperature matches the surrounding water. If a squid had swallowed the tag, the temperature reading would have stayed at a frigid 46 degrees Fahrenheit. It would never, under any circumstances, spike to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. A squid simply cannot generate that kind of heat. It's biologically impossible. So the Kraken is innocent. That left the internet with one final favorite theory: the Megalodon. People are obsessed with the Megalodon. The idea that a 60-foot prehistoric shark might still be lurking in the deep ocean is irresistible. A creature like that would have no trouble swallowing a 9-foot great white. It would have the size, the power, and the appetite. Its jaws were wide enough to engulf a small car. For decades, some have argued that Megalodon never truly went extinct, that a small population survived by retreating into the deepest, least explored parts of the ocean, places just like Bremer Canyon. On the surface, this theory seems to explain everything. Some internet sleuths even tried to explain away the temperature spike. Because the Megalodon is an ancestor of the great white, some argued it might have shared a similar warm-blooded circulatory system, one that could explain the 78 degrees Fahrenheit temperature reading. It fits the drama. It fits the violence. But science isn't built on movies. There is absolutely zero evidence that megalodons are still alive. If a predator that large existed, we would see signs everywhere. There would be massive bite marks on whales. Fresh teeth would be found embedded in prey. Sonar would pick them up. A 60-foot shark can't hide forever. The ocean is vast, but it's not infinite. A creature of that size would leave an unmistakable footprint on the ecosystem. Relying on a prehistoric ghost to explain modern data isn't science, it's fantasy. The researchers knew the answer had to be biological, not mythological. They needed a real animal, one that lives in the deep, hunts large prey, and most importantly, has a warm stomach. Something we know exists, but behaves in a way we never expected. The clues were beginning to form a picture of a monster that was frighteningly familiar. The answer was right in front of them, so they went back to the most critical clue, the 78-degree reading. They asked a simple question: what animal in the ocean can maintain a stomach temperature of 78 degrees Fahrenheit while swimming in water that's only 46 degrees Fahrenheit? The answer was shocking precisely because it was so familiar. The only animal that fits that profile is a great white shark. Most people don't realize how different great whites are from other fish. The majority of fish are cold-blooded. Their body temperature matches the surrounding water. If the ocean is cold, they're cold. At depth, they become slow and sluggish. Great whites are different, but great whites, along with tunas and mako sharks, have a remarkable superpower. They are regionally endothermic. This means they can warm certain parts of their bodies independently of the surrounding water. They have a complex network of veins and arteries called the rete mirabile, Latin for wonderful net. It's a biological masterpiece. This network captures the heat generated by their massive swimming muscles and recycles it. Instead of letting it escape through their gills, the blood vessels loop it back into their core, warming the eyes, the brain, and the stomach. This gives them a huge advantage. They can think faster, see sharper, and hunt with precision even in freezing water. It turns them into high-performance machines. But there's another benefit: digestion. A warm stomach digests food much faster than a cold one. When scientists examined the tag data, they found the shark's stomach temperature matched almost perfectly, 78 degrees Fahrenheit. Suddenly, everything clicked. The spike wasn't a mystery. It was a signature, a fingerprint. Where does this all eventually lead to? What was discovered to be responsible for Shark Alpha's demise? Keep watching to find out. A family betrayal, nailing the culprit. To put into perspective, the plunge to 1,900 feet is also a normal behavior for a large great white. After a massive meal, they often descend into the deep thermal layers to digest. The cold water helps regulate their body temperature, while their stomach works overtime. It's basically the shark version of a post-Thanksgiving nap. The behavior of other sharks also made sense. They didn't flee, because this wasn't a new apex predator invading the area. It was simply a larger member of their own tribe. The super predator wasn't a monster from a fantasy novel. It was a cannibal great white.
This is all part of a research project that Todd Battis had the chance to join on an earlier mission in search of great whites in the Atlantic Ocean.
And while cannibalism may sound shocking to us, in the shark world, it's just another Tuesday. Shark-on-shark attacks actually start early. Even in the womb, sand tiger shark embryos develop teeth, preparing them for a brutal fight before they're even born. The strongest embryo will literally hunt and eat its siblings before they're even born. It's nature's most brutal battle royale. Only the fittest survive. In the wild, larger sharks routinely eat smaller sharks. Bull sharks do it. Tiger sharks do it. Great whites do it. It's a dog-eat-dog world. Or rather, a shark-eat-shark world. But recognizing the attacker as a shark was just the first step. The real horror comes when you do the math. To swallow a 9-foot, 300-pound shark and have the tag enter the stomach instantly, the predator had to be massive. This wasn't a fight. The tag data showed no prolonged struggle. The temperature spiked immediately, which means shark alpha was either swallowed whole or ripped into enormous chunks in seconds. The attack likely came from below. Great whites are ambush predators. They strike from the deep, their dark gray backs blending seamlessly into the gloom. The attacker probably saw Alpha's silhouette against the surface light, surged upward with incredible speed, and collided with her with the force of a freight train. The impact alone would have stunned her. Then the jaws closed. Scientists estimated the size of the predator by combining the metabolic heat needed to reach that 78 degrees Fahrenheit stomach temperature with the physics of the attack. The numbers were staggering. A conservative estimate put the predator at 16 feet. So here's the reality. We know it was a great white. But how big was it really? To eat a 9-foot shark, you need to be significantly larger than 9 feet. And the data suggested a shark that defied ordinary expectations. You can't fit a car inside another car of the same size. To make this kind of kill, the predator needed a massive advantage. The initial calculations by the research team suggested a shark at least 16 feet long, weighing over 4,000 pounds, the size of a large station wagon or a pickup truck. But is this really possible? Is there truly a great white that large? Let's find out. The scary truth. Many experts, including Dave Riggs, believe that the estimate was a conservative one. 16 feet is huge, but is it enough to swallow a 9-foot shark in one go? Maybe not. To ambush and consume a healthy 9-foot shark so effortlessly, the predator may have been significantly larger. We're talking about a shark pushing 20 feet in length and weighing nearly 6,000 pounds. That's the size of the famous Deep Blue, one of the largest great whites ever filmed. A shark this size is essentially a submarine with teeth. Its girth would exceed 8 feet, and its mouth would be a cavernous maw. This revelation changes how we see these animals. We usually think of great whites as surface hunters, chasing seals near beaches or leaping from the water in South Africa. We see them on Shark Week, breaching or biting cages. But this event hints at a different class of great white, the deep water specialists. These giants survive in the shadows, patrolling the dark canyons along the continental shelf. They've grown massive on a high-protein diet of whales, squid, and other sharks. They are smart, cautious, and extraordinarily dangerous. They don't bother with small prey. They want big meals. Shark Alpha, formidable though she was just a teenager who swam straight into the territory of a queen. Shark Alpha was a dominant predator in her own right, but she wasn't the top predator. She was hunting fish. The creature below her? It was hunting sharks. It's a terrifying thought. We look at the ocean and worry about what we can see, fins cutting through the surface, but the data from Shark Alpha proves that the real monsters are the ones we cannot see. They lurk in the dark, nearly 2,000 feet below the waves. They live by a code of violence that we are only just beginning to understand. The ocean is not a democracy. It's a dictatorship, and the biggest shark makes the rules. The super predator was simply a colossal version of the animal we already fear. Shark Alpha's story confirms one chilling truth. The one creature a great white fears is a bigger great white. And the craziest part? That shark is likely still out there. At that size, it has no natural predators. It doesn't get eaten, it keeps eating, keeps growing, and keeps ruling the deep. What are the complete known facts about the great white? Why are these species so special? Keep watching to find out. The great white. The great white shark, also known as Carcharodon carcharias, also called the white shark or white pointer, is the largest predatory shark and one of the biggest fish alive today. It belongs to the mackerel shark family and is closely related to mako sharks, porbeagles, and salmon sharks. With a powerful, stocky body, its back is gray, while its underside is white. Females are typically larger than males, averaging 15 to 16 feet and weighing between 2,200 to 4,200 pounds. Males usually measure 11 to 13 feet and weigh 1,500 to 2,200 pounds. Some sharks can grow up to nearly 20 feet and tip the scales at over 5,500 pounds. They have around 300 sharp, serrated teeth that are constantly replaced throughout their lives. Their large, fatty liver, making up more than a quarter of their body weight, not only stores energy but also helps them stay buoyant. Interestingly, great whites are partially warm-blooded, which lets them stay active in colder waters. These sharks live in tropical and temperate oceans around the world, from coastal waters to the open sea. They are most commonly found along the Pacific and Atlantic coasts of North America, as well as near southern Africa and Oceania. Great whites are highly migratory, often traveling long distances between coasts, open waters, and even across continents. Their diet mainly includes marine mammals like seals and dolphins, fish, including other sharks, and cephalopods. They are also known to scavenge whale carcasses. While they sit at the top of the food chain, orcas occasionally prey on them. Generally solitary, great whites sometimes gather in groups, especially around feeding areas, where they can communicate and establish dominance through body language. Reproduction in great white sharks isn't fully understood, but we do know they are ovoviviparous. This means the pups hatch from eggs inside the female and are born alive after about 12 months. Young sharks usually stay in shallower waters and don't start hunting marine mammals until they grow to around 10 feet. The great white shark has long carried a fearsome reputation. It became famous in the 1974 novel Jaws and its 1975 film adaptation, both of which portrayed it as a man-eating monster. In reality, white sharks rarely target humans. Most bites are believed to be out of curiosity or mistaken identity. Efforts to keep them in captivity have largely failed, with most sharks dying or being released. Today, people can still see them safely from boats or in shark cages at sites where they gather. Conservation is a major concern. The International Union for Conservation of Nature lists the species as globally vulnerable and critically endangered in European and Mediterranean waters. As of 2025, populations are estimated to have declined by 30 to 49% over the past 159 years. Major threats include accidental capture in commercial fishing, recreational fishing, and being trapped by drum lines and gill nets along beaches. Many governments have stepped in with protections, banning the catching or killing of these sharks. The species has several common names in English: great white shark, and in Australia, white pointer. These names likely come from the shark's white underside, which is especially noticeable in dead sharks lying on their backs. What makes the great white so interesting? And why does the death of a great white stir so much scientific attention? Keep watching to find out. Why the great white is special. In everyday conversation, people usually say great white to emphasize its size and power. Scientists tend to use white shark, since there's no smaller or lesser white shark to compare it to, though sometimes the term is used for all sharks in the Lamnidae family. The scientific name Carcharodon comes from two ancient Greek words. The prefix karchar comes from karkaros, meaning sharp, and the suffix odon comes from odon, which means tooth. The species name Carcharias is also Greek, karkarias, simply meaning shark. The great white shark was first formally described by Carl Linnaeus in 1758 in the 10th edition of Systema Naturae, where he named it Squalus carcharias. At the time, Linnaeus grouped all sharks under the genus Squalus. By the early 1800s, scientists realized this shark deserved its own genus, and in 1838, Sir Andrew Smith officially named it Carcharodon. Even before Linnaeus, writers had tried to describe the white shark. One of the earliest records comes from Pierre Bellon's 1553 book, De Aquatilibus Duo, where he called it Canis carcharias. Bellon named it after dogs because of its jagged teeth and perceived similarities to canine features. Around the same time, the shark was also referred to as lamia by Guillaume Rondelet in his 1554 work Libri de Piscibus Marini, who linked it to the biblical story of Jonah, identifying it as the fish that swallowed him. The great white shark has a powerful, torpedo-shaped body, built for speed and strength. Its snout is short and cone-shaped, and its long gill slits don't wrap all the way around the head. It has a large triangular first dorsal fin that partially lines up with the pectoral fins, a tiny second dorsal fin, and a caudal tail fin with evenly sized lobes and a single keel. A small anal fin completes its streamlined shape. Its coloring is counter-shaded, dark on top, usually blue-gray or gray-brown, with a white underside. The underside of the pectoral fins has black tips. Interestingly, great whites can sometimes change their pigment, adding melanin to patches of white. Their skin is covered in tiny, tooth-like structures called dermal denticles. These are smaller than in many other sharks and have 3 to 5 ridges, each with backward-pointing tips. The great white shark is the only living species in the genus Carcharodon and one of 5 living species in the Lamnidae family. This family also includes mako sharks, porbeagles, and salmon sharks. Lamnidae belongs to the lamniformes, the order of mackerel sharks. The great white shark is protected as an endangered species across all Mediterranean coastal countries under the Barcelona Convention of 1978, which was updated in 1995. In 2009, the European Commission added further protections, making it illegal to fish for or capture white sharks under Regulation Number 43/2009.
Sharks are a species that need conserving. In fact, sharks do not get the protection that cod gets or plaice gets. They're often the forgotten species when it comes to conservation and management of fisheries.
Conservation efforts have had some successes. For example, in 2023, an EU-funded program safely released a juvenile white shark that had been accidentally caught near Lampedusa. Researchers have pointed to this as a clear example of how collaboration between scientists and local fishermen is crucial for protecting white sharks in Mediterranean waters. So, what do you think about the disappearance of the great white from the ocean? Do you think there could be 25-foot sharks hiding in the depths, undiscovered by science? Let us know in the comments section below. Thank you for watching this video. We hope you found these revelations both thrilling and interesting. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Click the next video shown on your screen to catch up on more interesting, mind-blowing discoveries. See you there.